Once I have my kick and snare channels up, I'll actually go to my overheads next before I pull in my hi-hat or tom mics. So I'll grab these here and pull them up. Select my first overhead, which is my left, and I'll actually pan it right because these overheads are drummer's perspective, so his left is my right. So I'll pan this guy left. Well, they sound pretty decent already. One thing I will do before I get started here is to actually group these faders. So to do that, go to Channel Job, Channel Link, and now if you read at the top here, you hold down Select on the one channel, and then select the next channel while holding it down. And now they're grouped, and you can even see they turned green here. So now those channels are grouped. So if I turn one up, it turns both of them up. So also now when I EQ them, they will EQ together. First thing I'll do on the EQ is put a high pass on here. And we'll take that up sort of around 200, 250, just to get rid of the low stuff. I generally let my overheads be a little more full range, meaning I don't take my high pass too high. Some guys prefer to get rid of everything below 500 or 600 hertz. Personally, I like to have it there. So these overheads actually sound pretty decent, but I'll play with the EQ and let you hear what it sounds like if you add or take away certain frequencies. So we'll start in our low mids here. We'll take some of this away. Our low mids. Now you'll notice I'm listening in context with the kick and snare, specifically the snare in the mix. If you EQ your overheads by themselves and then you pull in your snare, you might notice that everything's different now. Your overheads definitely affect the way your snare sounds, so be careful about that. I wouldn't necessarily turn my snare down to work on overheads. In fact, I would do just the opposite. Most of the time, I would leave my snare up and work on my overhead mics with the snare drum going. So we can add some high mids. If you take this away, there's hardly any clarity to the cymbals. But if your cymbals are really harsh, this is something that you might want to do. It definitely takes the edge off of things a little bit. And then your high frequencies. And too much of that's definitely really annoying. But not enough, and the cymbals sound really dark and really distant. So go back to 0 on that. Alright, so now after EQing, I might compress them a little bit. So we'll grab our first dynamics here, grab the compressor, turn this on. And I'll actually start with my attack and release where they are. Bring my threshold down until I start compressing a little bit. Now, when you're compressing your overheads, there are a couple of different ways to go about this. You can go with a fast attack to almost compress the snare out of the overheads so that when the snare hits, it compresses. But when the snare is not hitting, it's not really doing a whole lot of compression. The snare is generally the loudest thing in the kit, so it's going to trigger the compressor before anything else will. But you have to be careful because the cymbals can then trigger it too much as well, and so you just get a really muddy overhead sound. Take a ratio up a little bit just to experiment here. Now for this part, I will pull my kick and snare down just so you can hear what's going on. So now you hear when the snare hits, you really hear the compression. You hear the volume duck down for a second. Now if I turn this off, I'll let you hear it before. So if you listen to the ride cymbal that he's riding on, it's pretty even. If I turn this on, you can kind of hear it bouncing up and down in level. This is called pumping. when the compressor is just pumping the volume up and down. So we'll back off on that. And we'll leave the compressor on here, not doing a whole lot, but this will save you from a big hit. If the drummer really digs in and hits really hard, it's not going to rip your head off in the house if you have a compressor on there. So it's usually a good idea to just have one there, if nothing else, just for safety, so the drummer doesn't blow you away. So we'll go with that this time around on the overheads. So now that I have the overheads good, pull the kick and snare back in. Now, if I needed hi-hat at this point, I would go ahead and do that.